The world's bangus capital. Ask anyone living in Dagupan City and no one will undoubtedly question this title. Dagupan City is a never-ending progressive city. Year after year, the city of Dagupan just keeps growing as this metropolitan city that can rival any top-class municipality in the Philippines. Dagupan City is not just all about production and development, but it is also a hub for different commercial establishments to bloom. Due to the ever-growing popularity of different tourist spots located in the city. To name a few, these are the Tondaligan Beach, the old St. John Cathedral Church, and the Dagupan City Museum. But what makes Dagupan City special? What makes it unique from all the other municipalities located in Pangasinan? What are the specific distinctions that makes Dagupan City, well, Dagupan City? Let's talk about it in this special episode of Dive Deeper. Dagupan City, a city covering a total area of 4,447.10 hectares, bounded by the Lingayen Gulf. Specifically is on the northwest central part of the island of Luzon. Situated within the Agno River, it is built in a crisscross of 7 rivers and 14 creeks. Due to the fact that Dagupan City is surrounded by different bodies of water, it is known for making the world's tastiest and juiciest milkfish, thus owning the title of World's Bangus Capital. Currently consisting of 31 barangays and has a total population of 174,302, determined by the 2020 census, which makes Dagupan City own the highest population density in the province of Pangasinan, which is roughly 4,682 per square kilometer or 12,130 per square mile and has an estimated total household of roughly 35,748. Dagupan City is the economic center of Pangasinan, thus resulting in neighboring towns to look for job opportunities presented in this blooming commercial city. Historically, Dagupan was a center for salt making in numerous salt evaporator beds in the low-lying swampy areas close to the Lingayen Gulf. Beginning in the 19th century, some of the salt making operations gave way to pond culture of fish, most prominently the milkfish or as it is known locally as bangus, for which the city has become famous for. Fisheries, aquaculture, and processed fishery products are an important mainstay of the city's economy. Fun fact, did you know that Dagupan City is producing a rough estimate of 16,000 tons of milkfish annually? Now, with all those statistical information about the city's geography and economy laid out, to further understand Dagupan City as a whole, let's now move on to its rich history. To make the long story short on how Dagupan City came to be, Dagupan City was originally named Bacnotan by the Augustinian missionaries a few years after the establishment of the Spanish encomienda in Pangasinan in 1583. In 1660, Andres Malong, a local chieftain, led a revolt against the Spaniards for imposing forced labor, or also known as Poloy Servicio. After the revolt, the people rebuilt the town. To commemorate the gathering forces under Malong, the place was renamed to Nandaragupan, which means where people meet. In 1780, the name of the town was simplified to Dagupan, followed by the end of the Spanish ruling in July 23, 1898. The Spanish troops surrendered to the Katipunan leader, General Francisco Macabulos, aided by local Dagupeño captains named Juan Quesada and Eliseo Arsadon. to further enrich Dagupan City's history. During the Japanese occupation in the Second World War, Dagupan was chosen as the provincial capital of the newly established Japanese government. At the start of the liberation of the Philippines in 1945 by the Allied forces, the U.S. 6th Army under General Walter Kruger took part in a massive amphibious assault operation to recapture Luzon from Japanese forces. Amphibious landings were made along the length of the Lingayen Gulf in beaches at Lingayen, Bimali, Dagupan, and San Fabian. The U.S. land forces were under the overall command of General Douglas MacArthur, Supreme Allied Commander, Southern Pacific Area. After the assault and with the beachhead secured, General MacArthur set up his Luzon headquarters in Dagupan to consolidate preparations for the U.S. Army's push south to recapture and liberate Manila. And finally, on June 20, 1947, 2 years after the liberation of the Philippines, the cityhood of Dagupan was formally recognized as President Manuel Rojas signed into Law Republic Act Number 170, or also known as the City Charter of Dagupan, authorized by Speaker Eugenio Perez.
And now back to your regularly scheduled program.
As you can see clearly, Dagupan City has been through a lot before reaching its current status now. With all these historical dates, stories, and figures written for us, the future generation, to study, to read, and to feel means they knew what they were fighting for. They were not only fighting for peace, progression, or any tangible or intangible material found in the very land that they were fighting on, but they were fighting for us, the future generation. On the surface, that seems to be a given for the past generation, or for any generation for that matter. But I think that's the underlying character of Dagupan City itself. The resiliency, the valiance, and the unimaginable pain that Dagupan City has endured throughout the years before reaching its current state now must be the most toughest thing that anyone or anything has to endure. Those stories, emotions, uneasiness, and cultures that they were able to build regardless of their harsh situations. Those are the things that, in my opinion, are the most prized possessions that each and every one of us has, regardless of our socioeconomic class, education, political views, beliefs, and etc. We must, I repeat, we must preserve those things no matter what the cost might be. Now that we have covered a rather dark and sad time for Dagupan City, let's now move on to a much lighter and happier note of the city. Dagupan City is known for a lot of things. Its historical buildings, landmarks, even streets, and annual fiestas. There are a lot, and I mean a lot of things that makes Dagupan City one of a kind from other municipalities. First of all, Dagupan City has a lot of historical landmarks, starting from the old ruins of the old PNR Dagupan Station, which was formerly a dump site not until early 2020 or 2021 that the site was being restored to its former glory for it to be visited not only by the locals living near the place but for it to be an Instagrammable spot for tourists. The old St. John Cathedral Church that serves like a gem hidden behind the busy modern facade of Dagupan City. The old Dagupan Cathedral shines with its old regal architecture, resurrected from the ruins. It now towers as a testament to the city's foregone era, before malls lined its streets, before concrete paved its highways. Once a mighty cathedral now stands quietly in front of the old Dagupan market rather than the town plaza. It is quite easy to miss if you're not looking for it, but once you stumble upon it, it can be a treat for your architecture funny bone. And lastly, the Japanese Philippine Friendship Garden located in Bunuan, Tondaligan, which now accommodates park and dine type of food stalls that mainly aims to help local Dagupeños businesses to flourish, especially now that we are in the midst of a pandemic. Dagupan City seems to be the perfect getaway staycation municipality for all people, right? local or foreign. It is a central, ever so growing metropolitan city. It has complete basic amenities like hospitals, malls, apartments, hotels, and so many more desirable things that makes the city at first glance perfect. But as the saying goes, nothing is perfect. Dagupan City's greatest strength is also its biggest weakness. As you might recall, I've said earlier that Dagupan City is a crisscross of 7 rivers and 14 creeks. That statement alone states the problem in it of itself because Dagupan City is no stranger to flooding, not just because of the 7 rivers and 14 creeks that surrounds the city, but also its elevation. Dagupan City has a low surface elevation compared to its neighboring municipalities, thus resulting it to be a catch basin for other neighboring municipalities such as Mangaldan, Calasiao, and etc. That problem is the biggest deal breaker of the city. It's the stain on a rather clean and spotless slate that Dagupan City holds. Not only that, but Dagupan City is a rather hot and I mean very hot city when it's time for summer. Until recently, Dagupan City recorded the most highest heat index value that PAGASA, also known as the Philippine Astronomic, Geophysical and Astronomical Services Administration, has ever recorded, which reached the value of 53 degrees Celsius recorded on the 17th of March. Dagupan City is a city not without its own caveats. It has its own set of problems that can be dealt with accordingly. If I were to be questioned on what I would suggest to help mitigate these set of problems, I would suggest a rather timely solution, and I personally think that it would solve both the problems of Dagupan City regardless whether it's the sunny or rainy season. It's a simple yet cost-effective solution, and it's planting trees. Yes, I know. Before you say that planting trees is a pasakay or yan naman talaga solution sa problem natin dito, etc., etc., etc. Well, for me, since I am an architecture student, I think that we could dial the effect of planting trees to 101% with yet another cost-effective solution. I would like to call this solution as the Gray to Green project. There are two main initiatives for this project. First, turn any unused part of land into a plantation, grove, or anything that will make that particular part of land help with our local biosphere system. Second, promote and educate the importance of our environment. The two main initiatives that I've just mentioned are too general in nature. Yes, I know that. That's why I created certain parameters or sections, if you will, under those main parameters. Under the first initiative, there are 5 parameters we must follow. The first, the said unused land must not be occupied by whoever. This parameter just simply means that any land which is presently occupied is automatically out of the said project. Second, the initiative. The said unused land will undergo a number of certain tests for soil integrity to know whether planting a tree in that certain area will be advantageous or not. Third initiative. The said unused land must be located in a strategic area, wherein if a certain local or volunteer planted a tree on that particular part of unused land, the land will maximize its effect to the fullest. The fourth initiative. The said tree which will be planted on the said unused land must be in the form of a tree seedling or a tree sapling. And for the fifth and final initiative, the said tree which will be planted must be under the proper type of tree, which will help mitigate the problem that needs to be mitigated on the said area. Example, for heating. Based on my research, the best tree that we can use for solving the excessive heat in the Dagupan City is the bani tree, or also known as the Pongamia pinnata or Miletia pinnata. This is a great example of a tree that can be flexible in so many ways. First, it is good for heating because it's a tall tree, and once fully grown, it can reach up to 52 meters tall, and it has a dense and expansive canopy also once fully grown. Second, we can easily access tree seedlings or tree saplings for this particular tree because most of its kind is found in a somewhat near municipality, and that is the municipality of Bani, which is approximately 72.6 kilometers away from Dagupan City. Lastly, based from the research papers that I was able to skim through, its plant or its fruits can be used to treat diabetes due to the medicinal properties that the plant contains. Personally, I would say that the Pongamia pinnata is already my personal winner for this category because it not only solves one problem but it also has its bonus use in the medicinal field, which can really help a lot of Dagupeños in that department. Now that we are done with what tree we are going to use in solving the heating problem that has plagued Dagupan City, let's now move on to the flooding. In the problem of flooding, I personally picked the locally available mangrove tree. Here is an article from oceanwealth.org. It says here that mangroves are multitaskers in the world of ocean wealth. In addition to providing habitat for both artisanal and commercially fished species, sequestering carbon and bolstering tourism, mangroves are essential for protecting coastal communities from the effects of climate change in many parts of the world. The aerial roots of mangroves retain sediments and prevent erosion, while the roots, trunks, and canopy reduce the force of oncoming waves and storm surge and thus reduce flooding. And it says here that if the Philippines didn't have mangroves already, flooding damages and casualties would easily increase up to 25%. The instant increase of 25% is very alarming because based from the National Philippine Statistics Authority or the PSA, our country from the year 2010 to 2019 incurred a whopping total of 463 billion pesos in damages due to different natural extreme disasters. Knowing that we are located in the Pacific Ring of Fire, thus making us a hotspot for typhoons, earthquakes, and other natural disasters, we are literally a country which is in constant danger. That's why we as Dagupeños must do our part. Nothing says home than living in a community without fear of evacuating anytime, fear of crumbling buildings around us, fear of constantly being in danger without knowing when the disaster will hit. So, as Dagupeños, let's do our part and make the world a better place. Not for me, not for you, but for the up and coming future generation. This has been a special episode of Dive Deeper, and I hope you enjoyed this special mini episode dedicated to my hometown of Dagupan City. This was a fun video to create, and I hope to make more videos soon. So see you till the next episode of Dive Deeper. Peace! Burger kayo sa akin.